congratulate our first customers at our brand new facility right here at Gala Chevrolet, the Jose's. And how was your experience?
It was awesome and great.
What'd you end up buying?
We bought a 2018 Chevy Silverado.
And how would you say the experience was overall?
I bought all my cars here at Gala Chevrolet, and we couldn't wait for the new facility open, and all the people really treated us well.
Well, on behalf of Gala Chevrolet, we say thank you, and we'll see you soon right here at Gala Chevrolet.
Dream Style Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dream Style Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dream Style Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club, or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Nothing completes a trip downtown like a visit to Lindy's Cafe. You won't find a more relaxing restaurant to unwind at. Located on 5th and Central, proud supporters of Proview Networks, Lindy's strives to be a friendly and welcoming place.
Lindy's, a great place to be seen.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Hello again and welcome to the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galletti along with Ed Nunez, and we are going to be talking a lot of sports, a lot of UNM sports here today. We have a special guest who's going to join us here for the hour, and we're looking forward to talking to him. But first off, Ed, it's been kind of an interesting time here in the last couple of weeks.
Well, you know, you've been on the road or with the doing Hawaii Rainbows games, and really happy for you, man. You know, I haven't had a chance to tune in, but I'm going to. You know, you got some highlights out there on SoundCloud. And I was really, really happy and excited for you. So it's been a good 2 weeks or 3 weeks for you. You know, we've missed having you here in studio. We did have the legendary Henry T last week. And Henry, just take it away. Henry, take it away.
Yeah, how do I follow that up? Yeah, Henry T last week, and then I come back. You know, I don't know how I follow that act.
Well, it's, with Henry, I think you know him well enough. You've been in town, many years. And Henry's a dear, dear friend of mine, and he made me laugh because I'm nervous, I'm perspiring. I'm like, Henry, you've been in Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 13, KDEF, 101.7.
Right.
Why would you be nervous? But that's Henry.
Right.
We kind of just let Henry be Henry, and I thought it was a great show, and I was really, really glad to have him on. We're glad you're back.
Now, you had a chance to do the Lobo baseball game on Saturday, and, kind of a tough road. They took 2 out of 3 from UNLV, but since I saw this team in person last, they've been struggling, and it's tough to watch, and it's sad to see with Ray Birmingham's team. He said at the beginning of the year they have a very young team, but it's starting to really rear its head.
Well, they lost to Grand Canyon. And I thought they'd get a little bit of momentum taking 2 out of 3 from UNLV, who has a fine squad. Saturday, Cody Dye pitched a complete game and just scattered 7 hits and pitched very well. Chase Maddox was on the mound for UNLV, Greg Maddox's son, and he got chased after 1 1/3. So I thought the Lobos would follow that. I said, hey, I told Tom Dragmeister, who's with me on the broadcast, maybe they turn a little corner here. maybe they turn a little corner because they put together Jared and Connor Mang, had a good series. They started hitting some timely hits, as did the Justin Watari had a good series. And so I thought, hey, you know what? Here's some momentum. But they're a young team, as we mentioned, when you're missing a Luis Gonzalez, Jack Zellner, and a Carl Stadjahar in the middle of that lineup. Boy, did it really affect them. It really did. And hopefully the last 20 games they have, or 10 games, they can break out of that funk for next year. I hope so.
And you know, it's really weird. You mentioned doing Hawaii. I go to these different schools out in California, and I'm talking to people from both Hawaii, the other schools, and UNM when, you know, they know that I was part of UNM. You know, we start talking about the team, and everyone knows who Luis Gonzalez is. It doesn't matter where you are. He's well known around the country, so they talk about him, Stadjahar, and, you know, different elements, and everyone loves Ray Birmingham. But, you know, the word's out that the Lobos are struggling, and it's not a secret. So it doesn't matter where you go. People know.
Well, think about it, Sam Haggerty, the second baseman. I mean, Gonzalez was so important, though, because you got a guy that leads off, and then he pitches every 3 days. You know, Ohtani from the Angels is amazing me right now. We haven't seen that since Babe Ruth. The guy's pitching and hitting, and he's doing a great job of it. So when you're missing guys like that, and Coach Ray Birmingham would be the first to tell you, I could just hear him, you know, he was here a year ago, hey, Cowboy, you know, we're going to get better, and I could just hear him. But they've got a ways to go, Scott, and right now, you know, they struggle, and the thing is, when it all went south on them, pitching, fielding, hitting, it all went south. So hopefully their better days are ahead.
Well, before we get to our guests, you mentioned Ohtani. I got to follow this up. It was in the news. He threw the fastest pitch of the season, over 100 miles an hour yesterday.
I think he threw 4 of them. They said, so you know what? This guy is amazing to me. He really is.
It was 102 or 103 or something like that. I mean, it was
might have been 101, but you know, anything under, back in the day when Goose Gossett used to throw 100, people were like, oh my God. Now, you know, it always reminds me of Mike Brito of the Dodgers with the radar gun when Fernando Valenzuela was pitching. This kid is amazing. It really is. And then he's hitting, 333.
Right.
We haven't seen this in 100 years almost. Yeah. So I don't know where this kid is going to end up, because, you know, there's slumps and you have to adjust to the majors. This isn't Japanese baseball. You would eventually think he's going to hit a rookie wall, but right now he's amazing.
Let's bring in our guest now. He is from the Santa Fe New Mexican. Once upon a time also worked for the Albuquerque Journal. He is a sports journalist, sports writer, Will Weber. And how you doing, Will?
I'm busy these days.
Usually when people invite you on shows, it's not to talk about sports necessarily. But, you know, we're going to, I've got the rankings topics here. We're going to talk about the coaches polls at the end of the show. Okay. But, you know, I promise we're going to talk a little bit of sports. But, you know, you've been on with Bob Brown a lot at ESPN Radio 1017 The Team on events that I've produced over at Sandia Resort and Casino. And, you know, usually we're lucky if we talk about one pitch of a game or anything. So
that's the best time. It's when you just make things up as you go along. That's what I do with my writing, as anyone will tell you.
Well, you and I talked the other day over the phone, and it's amazing because you go to these meetings, which we're going to get into, and then you're also covering the prep beat. You're working on another story right now. So, I mean, you've got all sorts of fires going.
Nothing stokes the fire like going to a 3.5-hour Regents meeting where all they do is they talk about finances and finger pointing and cutting athletics. And I was cut and dried as a sports writer trying to do the game stories, but trying to figure out exactly the finances with UNM athletics, and really had to learn what a line item was. I had no idea what that was. So it's one of these things I've learned the last couple of months. But you know, it's interesting. I have a finer appreciation for what the people in the administration do over there and the challenges that they face from day to day, because I don't think there's ever been a time where money and the bottom line has been scrutinized more than it is right now. So yeah, it's been a fun couple of months for me over there.
So when all the stuff started being bantered about, it was Jeff Grammer from the Journal who was more known for going to all these meetings. And then lo and behold, hey, Will Weber goes to these too, so you're Bob Brown's go-to guy. And, you know, it's how did you get hornswoggled into going to these things, first off?
I don't think any media ever went to any of these things. We can all blame Daniel Libet from his investigative journalism from Chicago, of all places, is when he started unearthing all these misgivings from.
Well, he's from Albuquerque, but he lives in Chicago right now.
But it was all of his work that started getting people to pay attention to exactly what and what wasn't
about
being
a year
done.
ago is when it really started coming to light too about his stuff.
Right, and I think what's interesting now is you go to some of these Regents meetings, and now there's 6 or 7 media types there. All the TV guys are there. myself, the Journal is there. The Journal usually has 2 reporters there.
Right.
And so I think the Regents are kind of caught off guard a little bit by that because they see all the people coming in, and we started asking questions, and we're learning on the fly. We're kind of learning as we go. And really, I think it all goes back to what Daniel started, and now every single little item is being questioned. Why this? How come this wasn't done? And what I like now is you see a lot of grand gesturing on the Regents' part, where they'll sit up and they'll say, you know what? We have to hold your feet to the fire, athletics.
Right.
But my question is why weren't you doing this before? We're talking, this goes back 10, 11 years, and you're just now doing it because the media starts showing up. Everyone starts questioning and going through the books. And so it's a fun time because now you get to see people kind of stand up. Like at one point, the region president actually pounded his fist on the table so much that his microphone cut out during the regents meeting, and then he's giving the audio guy
that was during the meeting a couple of weeks ago where they asked originally for the sport-by-sport rundown.
Which I thought was a little aggrandizing on his part, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do.
Right.
And it gives you, it gives me something to write about. And I think the biggest challenge for me is I'll sit through a 3.5, 4-hour meeting and trying to write it in that crayon format that you have to do for a newspaper.
Right.
That's a tough thing. So I go home, I'm sitting there writing my story. My wife and my kids are wondering what I'm stressed out about, and I'm just listening to all this audio going through numbers. But you know what? It makes my job more fun.
Before I add on to what I was going to ask, I'll bring Ed in.
Yeah, you know, Will, I was listening to your interview with Bob Brown about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you said that, and we had Eddie Nunez here about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
The grace period's kind of over for Eddie.
We really couldn't ask him too much because he couldn't really answer too much.
Right.
I mean, if we could have him on now, we could probably ask him a little more. But go ahead, Ed.
Right. We, you know, so and we obviously couldn't say anything. But one of the things I heard you say with Bob Brown was that, you know, Eddie seemed to have an answer. Then all of a sudden, 5 questions came out of one.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's, you know, right now, boy, Eddie's got a lot of work. They have a lot of work in front of them, and I think one of the things you said about the region, you know, hitting, that's theatrics, man. We know that. But you're right. They got to, and I think that your question is a legitimate one. Where was the oversight before?
Right.
And I think a lot of people are asking that because now, you know, somebody wrote the other day, well, cut football. You know, I read that in the Sports Speak-Up. I'm like, my brother and I, I've watched since Rudy Feldman, man.
Yeah.
I've watched since '70 when Rocky Long was a quarterback here.
Right.
And my heart went in my stomach. I'm like, gosh, I love Lobo football. You know, my brother was incensed, and I don't think, you know, that they even suggested it.
Yeah.
But it seems like right now, anything's on the table, and that's, and I mean, possibilities of anyway. I don't know that they'll do that. Kind of a scary time for Lobo athletics, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the big 3 are safe. Men's and women's basketball, football is safe. They're not going to trim any of their budget. I think they have to because, look, there was recent talk of Gonzaga maybe joining the Mountain West. And Gonzaga's big problem is they don't have football. So they're not as marketable to join a bigger conference. That's why they're in the West Coast. And I think everyone at UNM knows, despite the struggles with football, despite all the controversy, you have to have a football program because it is potentially your biggest money maker. You have to do that. And football drives the economic engine. That said, basketball is still the one that stabilizes everything, and they've had a tough couple of years. And I think really now the focus at UNM isn't so much on football. It's really getting basketball back to where it was because attendance was lower than it ever had been in the pit this last season. And their ticket projections for next year are actually a little bit rosier because I think they expect a better team. But football, I mean, they cut the ticket projections to lower than they ever have been for the next season because you look at their schedule. They're playing Incarnate Word and Liberty, and then they have 3 late conference games late in the season when they really could be out of it. One of them is actually on the day of the state cross country and soccer championships because I know people might laugh at that, but you're talking about upwards of a few hundred people that might not have to go to a football game because their kids might be playing in the soccer tournament or something along those lines. It's just people don't need an excuse in Albuquerque to not go to events, and to have a home game on one of the busier sports days, I think raises an interesting question for UNM athletics. But I love talking to Eddie Nunez because the guy is still fresh, and every single day he learns a new thing about how bad the books are at UNM. And between he and Rob Robinson, who's the CFO over there, I think really what they're just trying to do is just find out where all the money has been going the last few years and put it all in one spot so they can present that to the regents. And more than that, it's the finances and facilities committee that they have to go to every single month now to present to them to look, where's the money going? No one really knows, not even he knows. And so I think as we move along, He's still got the new guy mentality. He's still got the new car smell to him. He can get away with that.
Right.
But I think in about 5 or 6 months after he's cut a couple of sports, and once the next season starts to get into it, and once the football season's going, and once we find out what happens with Bob Davie, then the new guy thing just doesn't work anymore. Then we get to see how tough Eddie Nunez is right now.
That's
so.
a good point.
Now back to Daniel Libet. When all this started, one of his main sources of information is a public information request. Explain to the people out there what exactly that is, because I think the common thread is, excuse me, a lot of people feel he's the only guy that does it. You do them, Jeff Grammer does them, Jessica Dyer does them. I mean, everyone's been doing them, but he's the one who usually gets called to the carpet for digging out the information. First off, explain to the people what exactly those are.
Well, if you're a public entity like UNM, like the NMAA, you're subject to have anyone go through your books. Anything that goes on in your organization is open to public record. But you can't just walk in there and say, I want to see this or that. You have to actually, you formally have to request it. There's basically a legal document that you have to turn in, and then they've got 14 days, I believe, to respond to it. And then they can kind of drag their feet. They can redact a few things in terms of personnel stuff. So they can make it hard. Essentially, they're legally bound to give you whatever you ask for, but if they don't give it to you, you can technically take them to court. And I think some organizations say, well, all right, let's try that. Let's go to court.
Right.
They've done that with Daniel Libet because they know not a lot of these news organizations like newspapers are what they are. They just don't have the money they used to.
Right.
They're not going to challenge that in court.
Right.
So if you have...
He still has the case going, doesn't he?
He does, and Daniel's got some deep pockets from what I understand, so he can drag that fight on, which is good for... Look, the fact that he's holding UNM's feet to the fire is good for journalism. Because it makes them be accountable for their own actions. As a public entity, they can do that. And they're not a private university, they're a publicly funded university, and everything they do over there, whether it's phone calls, emails, or financial stuff, is open to public records. So yeah, we'll turn in a request, it goes through the filters, we get it back, and some of the stuff is redacted, some of it's not there, and it becomes a big push and shove. But bottom line, you can find out a lot of really interesting things about how much people make, where the money goes.
Right.
And if you're smart enough, and if you really want to do your homework and do the research, you can have the big blowout stories that they used to. And look, you and I are old-time sports writers. We're used to going to games, keeping stats, and then that's the end of the day.
Right.
This is all new for me. I've been in journalism for 25 years, and I've really had to learn a new way of doing the writing thing and the reporting. I actually feel like a journalist now instead of a writer, which is an interesting dynamic. But you know, it's fun because so far UNM has been cooperative. At least with me, they have.
Well, hold all those thoughts. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come back with Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican in just a moment. But first, the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week.
Ball swung out and missed, and Smite struck. Yes. Warning track down there by Smith. Here's a swing and a high, deep fly ball straight away center field. It is over the batter's eye and gone. Slide set and the delivery. And the slider swung on and missed.
First, and this one from Mang is deep to right. This one, the wind is pushing it back deep, and it's gone. A 2-run shot for Jared Mang. It looked like a routine pop fly, and the wind just said, no, this one's going, and gone. So Jared Mang, a 2-run shot for the Lobos, makes it 16-9 near the bottom of the eighth.
The lead runner now offers 1-2 curveball outside corner called. There's a 1-2. That's well hit to left center. Does it have the distance? Yes, it does. Right back where it came from. Garley's going to be able to go to home for one and to first for two. A double play. outside corner. It's a fastball, and it's lined up the middle. Coming hard to it is Merritt. He dives and makes a difficult catch on the backhand.
And Mang's going to put this out to deep left. This one back at the wall, and that's gone. So a
3-2 pitch, swinging a high fly ball to right field, into the wind. It's got a chance. Smith at the track. He's at the wall, and there it goes. Goldschmidt, opposite field, 3-run home run.
Here at the all-new Gala Chevrolet, our ultimate goal is to make life easier for you. That's why we built our new ultra-modern facility from the ground up with the customer in mind. With 1,000 vehicles in stock, a great variety of pre-owned vehicles of every make and model, a clean, state-of-the-art service department focused on getting you back on the road as quickly as possible, and a sales team devoted to 100% customer satisfaction. All conveniently located in the heart of Albuquerque. We'll see you soon, right here at the all-new Gala Chevrolet.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
When I train for American Ninja Warrior, I schedule regular workouts to stay in shape. To keep my car in Ninja Tough shape, I head to a Napa Auto Care Center for regular maintenance and genuine Napa Auto parts. Like brakes and batteries. I trust my Napa Auto Care Center for quality parts and quality service. And with the 24-month, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty, I drive away with peace of mind every time. Visit AutoCareNM.com to find a location near you.
Hey, New Mexico, come check out the newly remodeled guest rooms at the new Wyndham Albuquerque Hotel and Conference Center, featuring 309 rooms, 30,000 square feet of meeting space. New Mexico's only indoor water park featuring the Wave Runner. 2,200 square foot fitness center with hydro massage chairs. Also enjoy breakfast at our new Manzanita Grill and watch your favorite team play at Altitude Sports Bar and Grill. It's all at Wyndham Albuquerque Hotel and Conference Center. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
And we are back here on the sports desk. I'm Scott Gallotti, along with Ken. Ken. I don't know where Ken came from. With Ed Nunez. I'm thinking of someone else actually, but Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani is our fine director, and Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican. How you doing, Ken?
Ken did not get the
no, I actually have that. You know what? I saw a good friend of mine who also is a longtime journalist. Ken Allen, actually, out in California. So I had Ken on the mind because you were talking about old stories, and I was thinking about old stories also that were coming up over the weekend.
Nice recovery.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was bad. I normally don't do that either.
No, he doesn't. He's a pro.
What's your name again?
Ken. Let's just go.
Yeah, okay. Well,
let's
anyway,
leave it at Ken.
Well, anyway, Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican.
It's okay, recover. Come on, take a deep breath. You're good.
Let's get back to talking. And this is not a dogfest of UNM in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it's very unfortunate because, you know, you look at Ray Birmingham's season right now. You should be talking baseball.
Yeah.
And here we are talking all this stuff. You should be getting ready. Spring football just ended. No one even talked about spring football hardly because all this stuff was going on. And it seems like, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Is there an end point to all this? Because it seems like Ed said about you know, Eddie Nunez, it seems like every time that you get to point A and you think it's solved, something else comes up, another roadblock, and Ed scampering, or Eddie, I should say, is scampering and looking for answers on that one. It just seems like things just keep coming up. What do you see in terms of that point of view?
It'll get worse before it gets better because that July 1st deadline is looming like the Grim Reaper. I mean, at some point they're going to have to eliminate sports, and here's why it's absolutely going to happen. I mean, you can freeze positions, you can save a couple $100,000 by not filling personnel holes in the athletic department. That's fine. Right. But you have a brand new president who's got a pragmatic approach to a lot of the athletic stuff. She's not married. She's not married to any of the athletic programs. She's not a fan. She's not a big booster. She's brand new. She doesn't know any of these people. So she's going to walk in. She's going to look at the finances. She's going to look at the bottom line. She's going to say, you know what, this team should probably go, and I'm for it. Because it means nothing to her. And I think sometime over the course of the next couple of months, what's going to happen is UNM will probably go with an outside consulting firm, and that consulting firm will come back and say, you need to cut, I'm thinking anywhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 sports. So you'll trim from 22 down to 17, and July 1st, I'm assuming the announcement will come before then, that will be the absolute low point for UNM athletics, because then you're going to have boosters, you're going to have athletes coming out of the woodwork to say, why cut these athletic?
Well, look at what happened a year ago when they cut skiing.
Right. Skiing.
I mean, everyone came out of the woodwork immediately.
Right.
And if you do that with 4 to 5 sports?
Yeah. Right. I think one of the other things
that's going to be ugly.
Will, is, you know, you're right. And Barbara Dameron, I know Barbara Dameron a little bit. I interviewed her on ESPN Radio many years ago. I also had her on a show that I do for the city government channel. And so I know Barbara, you know, nice lady, but like you said, not emotionally involved. Bottom line is this and this. And it doesn't matter to her yet until they come out of the woodworks like they did on skiing and things like that. Then it becomes emotional. Because, you know, people, they did that with skiing, like Scott said, when Mr. Krebs wanted to cut skiing, then they can't, you know, they made the plea. They've talked about soccer. Jeremy Fishbein's got his ducks in a row. So it doesn't matter what they cut, and they have the most sports of any team in the conference at 19, I believe.
22.
I'm sorry,
22. Yeah.
So something, and it's unfortunate, but like you said, right now, and it's about, and it makes me laugh about the redactions and everything. It's power of the press. It's freedom of the press. Doesn't, you know, the Post, all the president's men. Of course, those are different things. But still, people want to know, and they have the right to know. And I think some of those things that I read, at least about Coach Davey, you know, I'm a fan, right? I'm a fan. But I had to look at some of those and like, okay, you know, that raised some eyebrows for me because, like I told you, I've been a fan. I'm a huge fan. My son is too. You know, but the other point you make, and it's a good one, is that, and Scott knows this too, this is Lobo football, okay? Win 2, you know, win 1, and then lose 1, wins basketball. It doesn't matter who the coach is, by the way, Franchoni, Shepard, Joe Lee Dunn, Joe Morrison, it doesn't matter. I've been there, and I've seen it, I've heard it. You know, so they win a couple, and then, like Scott says, lose 1, see ya. I'm not going to see Wyoming, CSU. I'm not going. It's late. And instead, now the other thing is this, though. The other thing is I think we ought to give Mr. Nunez, Eddie, a chance. How's he going to market? What are you going to do different to bring fans to the game? What's different about, how does your outlook look? I'm talking about Eddie, your marketing approach. What's different to make people want to come out instead of saying, nah. Indifference is what's hurt that program. I've seen it for years, man. I know all about it every season.
It's apathy. It's general apathy.
I've followed it even when I was a student at Eastern. They're still my team. They've always been. Think about this, okay? Well, you're a little young. You would remember this, though. Joe Morrison, 10-1 in 1982. They lose to BYU, no bowl. Of course, there's not a million bowls at that time. They don't even sell out when they play BYU. And I remember that game was on ABC, regional TV. Jim McMahon, the quarterback for BYU, I believe, maybe not. He might have already graduated. It might have been Detmer or Bosco. I can't remember. But they don't even sell that game out. One of my best friends was playing for the Lobos. And I remember I said, hey, man, I'm just going to watch it on TV. And me too, indifference, apathy, right? I remember him telling me, hey, man, we need you out to the stadium. So this has been going on for many, many years. And I just don't know. I want to see, though, what does Eddie do that's different? Eddie Nunez. They say, hey, let's try this marketing process. We haven't tried this. Let's try that, because he's going to have to.
I think one of the problems with Albuquerque, with fans of UNM, is people really have a hard time understanding when the good old days are. You could be right in the middle of it and not really fully embrace it, because when Rocky Long was here, they had 3 straight years where they averaged about 37,000 fans for football. That was only 10 or 12 years ago.
And then this last year, after they beat Nevada in the bowl, the attendance went down. There's a pattern there, because they go 9-4. Attendance not only goes down, it goes down lowest than since before Rocky was here.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine what that stadium would be like with 37,000 fans every single week.
Right.
But then you look at it, I mean, who knows why people don't go out? Maybe the weather's too nice, or it's too bad, or whatever. But the schedule certainly doesn't help this year. Their home openers are Incarnate Word. And then the next week they go to Wisconsin. And then their next home game is a couple weeks later against Liberty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their first 2 home games for the first basically 5 weeks of the season. Yeah. And so, yeah, you could.
There's no Aggie game this year. So if they in theory, average 20,000, they'll be lucky.
Right. They could easily get into the conference
and that
schedule.
Doesn't mean butts in the seats.
3 or 4
that means
games
average
below 500.
whatever.
Right. And it could be one of these just horrible years for athletics, just averaging 15 to 20,000 fans a game. And it makes you wonder how much longer Bob Davy's going to be here, because look, he was in the honeymoon phase the first couple of years. I think people saw the gradual progression. He was getting the numbers back up. Team was doing well, but that's clearly over. I think people have kind of gotten tired of his antics. And I actually like Bob Davy. He's always treated me well, but there's something about him that just rubs people the wrong way. Right. Whether it's a behind-the-scenes thing or something, but people just are not Bob Davy people here. And so the question is, do you run this guy off and maybe have to pay him off and then further that debt, or you just ride this thing out and hopefully see where it goes?
And then the other thing, you wonder if it's, kind of like Rocky. Rocky was very outward. When we'd go to those weekly press conferences, he'd have the round table where he'd just spill his guts and let you know what was going on. And
Bob does not do that.
Bob doesn't do that, but I wonder how frustrated he gets or got after going 9-4, and then all of a sudden attendance just plummets.
Absolutely.
And that's before all this stuff came out. That's just when they were having bad schedules. And by the way, people complained Rockies last year when Texas A&M, they did what every other school in the country does, and they charge more. They charged more for the marquee game, and people balked at that. And then the original, when they got bombed at Oregon with Mike Loxley, that was supposed to be a home and home.
Yeah.
And then Oregon bought their way out of the home and home. So originally, it wasn't a body bag game. It was a home and home, and Oregon was supposed to come here the next year. And they ended up saying, nah, we don't want to play you. We want to play someone else.
It's unfortunate, because the body bag games are becoming much more prevalent. I mean, they're booked for at least the next 5 or 6 years with a body bag game. And now we're talking about potentially adding a second one. So really, in the span of a few years, you've gone from a team that can go to a bowl game every couple of years, if not every year, to one of those very classic lower level mid-major teams that becomes the cannon fodder for the bigger schools. And as that chasm grows between the Power 5 and everyone else, you're only going to see that happen more and more. So really the question from that point
becomes, are you? I mean, I talk to people who think the body bag games are going to go away one of these days. Because in other words, the tier, the P5 schools, why play the lowers? Because it's going to hurt our RPI or strength of the schedule or whatever. So and most conferences are saying you got to play better teams anyway. So
I don't see what UNM gets out of it other than a big fat paycheck. Is to go get your teeth kicked in twice a year and then demoralize the fan base. A fan base that doesn't need an excuse not to come out anymore. Why keep doing that? So,
and when you play an elite team, I mean, when I was going to Long Beach State and I did games for Cal State Fullerton, when those teams, and they played at least 2 body bag games a year.
Right.
In fact, one year Long Beach played Florida and Georgia in the same season.
Yeah.
And half their team was injured. So I mean, that's another thing. When you go to these elite schools. Nowadays, I mean, the prepping and all that stuff's a lot better.
Sure.
Kids are in better shape, but those bigger teams and bigger players, You mentioned get your teeth knocked in. Sometimes players get their teeth knocked in.
And it really, maybe the experience too. This is where marketing comes in. You and I talked a little bit about this, about what is the role of the marketing department at UNM, because you have to make the experience something worthwhile for the fans.
Right.
And let's face it, it's cheap to get into a Lobo football game. My wife and kids have gone to the games that I've covered the last 2 or 3 years. They'll just go buy tickets. It's cheaper than going to a movie.
Right.
So why people don't go, I don't understand. But UNM's got to find a way to make it more enjoyable. Like an Isotopes game, people couldn't tell you if the Isotopes win or lose.
Right.
But it's fun being there.
Right.
And if UNM can finally, it's just some way tap into that magic thread that they've got, who knows? Because Isotopes games are more expensive than football games are. Who knows why it's just not working?
See, that's the elephant in the room too. Most people here, I don't know if they realize, but UNM tickets are the cheapest ticket.
They're dirt cheap.
I mean, for football, for Division I football, you're not going to find a ticket cheaper than UNM.
Sometimes it's more expensive to park than it is to buy a ticket.
It's always been a head scratcher for me why people don't go to games. But then again, we did the game, the La Cueva and Manzano state championship game. That was the first time I ever saw Wilson Stadium sold out. I mean, I know it's happened a million times in the past. First time I witnessed it in 5 years.
Yeah, but people here are just, they're apathetic, but they're vocal, and they're only vocal when it's negative. They're usually
which is unfortunate.
You go to a Big Ten town. Like I used to have relatives in Madison, Wisconsin. I remember one weekend they were playing Ball State, and the place was just swimming in red jerseys and sweatshirts. People love the team up there. Here, you just don't get that feeling. You don't get the feeling that you're in the middle of UNM town. It's just, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the passive-aggressive nature that all New Mexicans have towards athletics. I don't know why, but it's just not.
How much do you think it had? I got to thinking about this actually when you were on, and I'm listening in my car on my phone to your interview with Bob a week or so ago. How much do you think it has to do with fans not showing up, with it being a commuter school?
Yeah, that could be. Because
I went to a school, Long Beach State, that was considered a big-time commuter school.
Well, I went to UNM, and when I was going to school there, of course, it was easier to get tickets when you were a student because you could get a free ticket and then a guest pass. I think it was like $5. So and then it was festival seating. You come in, you run down, and then you basically sit all the way down to the floor.
Right.
But now they've kind of shoehorned all the students behind, kind of over by where the band sits.
Right.
But any home game, even the Arizona game, which had the biggest crowd this last basketball season, the student section was the emptiest section in the entire building.
Right.
I don't know why students don't go anymore. I know a lot of UNM students now, and I actually play basketball with a couple of them every Thursday, and they don't go to the games. And it's not like a lot of the games are actually on TV. It's just there's no interest in going. And I can't understand that, because when I was a student, it was a big deal to go to basketball games. That was the one thing. And now it's just not. And we can sit here and debate the semantics of social etiquette and, well, the Snapchat's too big and social media, there's too much stuff to do. I don't know why. I don't know if there's just too many distractions that keep people away. But if Eddie Nunez can figure it out, if Rob Robinson can figure it out, then more power to him, because I'm not smart enough to do that.
We'll take a quick break, and we will come back with more of Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican in a moment on the Sports Desk.
Carmody Medical provides solutions for your everyday needs. Hot and cold compression wraps provide therapeutic compression for the shoulder, hip, and knee. The therapy wraps are constructed of an insulated outer fabric and a ventilated cotton pocket to protect the body. Elastic belts allow mobility and deliver a gentle, adjustable compression. The reusable therapy packs can be removed from the pouch and placed into the freezer. Contact Jim for more information.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rawlings, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all, or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, Hashtag life change will occur.
Terry Cosper Insurance Agency is a proud partner with Proview Networks and a proud supporter of New Mexico High School athletics. Terry's been a local farmer's agent for over 20 years for auto, home, life, and business insurance. Just like high school sports are important, so are teen drivers. For more information, call Terry or one of his licensed staff members at 898-5556. Quotes are available for you. Gecko's Bar and Tapas, a proud supporter of Proview Networks. It's been a fan favorite spot for food lovers and sports fans. With not one, but two great locations, including outdoor patio, an atmosphere you won't want to miss. Gecko's, off Academy and in Nob Hill. Hey everyone, Adam Deal here with Proview Networks. Extreme Clean is a proud sponsor and supporter of Proview Networks and all high school sports athletics. Owner Mike McLean and Extreme Clean specialize in carpet cleaning for apartment, realty, business, and residential clients. With over 20 years experience, attention to detail and quality customer service matters. For more information, give them a call, 505-221-6440, Extreme Clean.
The Barley Room, a proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today. Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
The Barley Room, a proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
And we are back here on the sports desk. Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez, Alden Iowani, our fine director, and Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican, our special guest. Thanks for joining us. First off, Will, and back to UNM. $1.9 million they got to reduce. Where did that number come from? Do you even know the answer to that yet?
And that was the big question.
That's the $1 million question, right?
Well, you know, that's an arbitrary figure. It'd be like $2 million or $3 million we got to cut. Where'd you come up with 1.9?
Right.
So I think the thought process is that somewhere along the line they knew how much a certain amount of sports would cost every year. So if we eliminate these 2, 3, 4 sports, we save ourselves $1.9 million. But that's the misconception. You think that if you eliminate these sports, all of a sudden you have an additional $1.9 million coming in. That's not the case. UNM will just not fund those sports. So you still have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's for the other sports. It's not like you're getting an extra $1.9 million in cash. They still got to behave themselves. But the $1.9 million, I think if you do the math and you look at the cost of some of these programs like skiing, like beach volleyball, like indoor track, and some of these other ones, it roughly comes out to about $1.9 million. So I think the writing is on the wall for which sports are going to get whacked. And it's like we've talked about. somewhere along the line, one of the sports that's going to get cut is going to cause a lot of pain. It's going to be a team that has done fairly well. That's going to surprise some people. I don't think it's going to be men's soccer, and I'll tell you why. The last Regents meeting where Jeremy Fishbein, he ran 13 of his former players up there, and these guys came in from all over the country.
And you were there.
And some of these guys gave the most impassioned speeches you ever get. They only had 3 minutes to talk, and some of these guys told the most amazing stories, and it was well done. Well done. And then Jeremy gets up there. He's the last one to go. He's got 3 minutes. He went 6. And at one point, he's talking about how when he first moved here, he didn't know how to pronounce tortilla or enchilada. And now he's ingratiated himself into the community.
Right.
He met his wife here.
Right.
He's got 2 kids. And then when he started talking about his kids, he choked up. And I actually timed it. But he was silent for 15 seconds. And in those 15 seconds, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at him, and behind him in my line of sight, I can see Garnett Stokes, Regents President Rob Doty, and Maren Lee, one of the other presidents. She's the vice president of the Regents. And all 3 of them are sitting there. And Garnett Stokes, the pragmatic new president, she actually leaned forward on her desk and gave the most empathetic look to him. This grown man who got quiet and choked up for 15 seconds, trying to compose himself and talking about the potential of cutting soccer, a team that has done so much in the community. And I even told Fish afterwards, I said, those 15 seconds saved men's soccer at UNM. Whether or not you were faking it, it worked because it was.
I don't think he was faking
I have never convinced anyone with me being emotional the way he did with them. And so I don't think UNM soccer is going to get cut. They do have to make changes. I mean, look, they can't be in Conference USA anymore. I think eventually they have to move.
Now, here's the thing. Now, you said something very interesting, I should say. That could be serious.
I said something interesting. Well, listen, by all means, let's talk about that.
You said that there was going to be a sport that shocks a lot of people. Could baseball be that sport?
I don't think it'll be baseball because, look, you just poured a couple $1 million into their new facility.
And you could answer that with a lot of the sports. Soccer, they can be self-funding. You know, the ski team put money into it. You got all these other tennis, golf, tennis. You got all these alumnus and stuff. I mean, golf, you could probably get PGA guys to fund the program if really need be. So, I mean, everyone has some sort of funding, and yes, Ray's basically built everything by himself.
I think some of the easy targets are obviously skiing, because skiing doesn't have its own facility. When you have to transfer your team to Red River or Taos, wherever it is you're going to practice, that's a lot of money. I don't care what you're talking about in terms of academic support. Look, the skiing team always has the best GPA. But I think when it's just an easy cut because they don't have a facility.
But where's the surprise then?
I think it will be one of the combined sports. Say tennis, potentially soccer.
And maybe they just built that facility.
Maybe one of the track, but you can keep the facility for the other gender. So I think. I think softball should be in danger, but I don't think they're going to eliminate softball because they poured a lot of money into softball, and you got one of the nicer facilities. And plus, there's always the Title IX.
I was just going to say, with the Title IX, you got to cut more men's sports before you even touch women, in my opinion.
You could cut cross country for men. You could cut track for men, indoor track for men. One of these facilities that is shared with the women, tennis, you could do that. When's the last time we really had a real conversation about men's or women's tennis at UNM? I know they built the brand new facility. The McKinnons are a big family contributor to what UNM does over there. But if you eliminate one, you're not getting rid of both. So I think that could be one of these things. And when it comes out, you're going to see a lot of boosters, a lot of flag waving, a lot of people saying, let's save this.
It doesn't matter what sport. You're going to see that.
It doesn't matter.
You are going to see that big time. We already saw that with it. If skiing was any indicator of the backlash that's going to be seen, it's going to be monumental, whichever sport it is.
I think the difference between the saving it now as opposed to saving it when skiing was on the chopping block is now the regents are actually behind this. The president has signed off on this plan. And really it was the president's plan to do this. So I think you're going to see the cuts. It's going to raise a lot of hairs, and we're going to have some debate, but it's going to happen, and it's going to be heavy, and it's going to be surprising for some of these schools and some of the teams. And the worst part about it is those teams are then going to have to compete this coming year. And so
that's the worst part, actually.
My goodness, could you see if they cut the soccer team and you had to go cover? Those guys would not give one hoot about the season. because then you're a rat on a ship and you're trying to save yourself. So it's like get out, do what you got to do. So. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year coming up.
Bob, you know what? It really is, because I think one of the things you mentioned, it's not emotional yet, but when they start talking about what they're going to cut, it certainly becomes emotional after that.
Yeah.
And even just the sports that have been mentioned that maybe won't be cut, when you talk about baseball, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I think of Ray Birmingham and what he's done at UNM. He's done a great job, phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And although he's in the midst right now of struggling a little bit this year, but you think about what they've done, and Scott mentioned they poured some money into the field at Santa Ana, that it's even being considered. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So if your brows are raised about that, you mentioned there's going to be some surprises, and I don't doubt it. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you: what if this reporting had never come up? What if when would this conversation had taken place?
Yeah.
I mean, would it have taken place? That's what I want to know.
I'm not sure if it would be to the point where it is right now. And I think a lot of that, again, it goes back to what Daniel Libet did. He did the heavy lifting. Let's face it, he had a lot more time than the rest of us did.
Right.
Because the rest of us are covering games and we're doing features and writing columns. To do that kind of enterprising work takes weeks or months.
Right.
And because he did that, it opened the door for everyone else. And kudos to Daniel. I don't know a lot about him.
What has he been wrong on, by the way?
I don't know. I
mean, glaringly, what has he been wrong? I haven't been able to find anything.
Yeah, I've read through some of his stuff, and it can be salacious with the headlines and some of the gotcha mentality. But look, going back to the Bob Davie investigation, they never actually proved that he did anything wrong. And they said in the investigation that they found that he joked around with some of the players at a golf course and maybe said some racially inappropriate things.
Right.
But it comes across as him being this doddering old coach who, that's just the way we always talked. He wasn't trying to be racist. And Daniel could have buried him right there, and he didn't. He just reported the facts.
But how much of that, I mean, when it all comes down to it, it seems like Bob Davie was suspended for his involvement in the investigations as opposed to what he said and didn't say in the locker room.
I'm not sure if that's entirely true. I think it was a combination of everything, because the racial stuff did make it sound pretty bad. And look, we're in a day and age where we rightfully should be hypersensitive to race issues, and he was out of line by saying some of that stuff. He shouldn't have done.
But that's more he said, she said, as opposed to the other one that can be proven by reports.
Well, it never actually came out and said that his hands were on it. No, look, there's people in the athletic department that'll go off the record and tell you, well, he was in on this and he coerced this guy and he did.
Well, the UNMPD would be able to tell you if he was in on it, and maybe that's what the AG finds or doesn't find or whatever.
Eventually, and those investigations just don't happen overnight. They take a long time, and then usually when they get leaked out, it kind of comes out quietly. You almost have, it's like the Cody Hopkins thing this week. No one's really looking for the Cody Hopkins stuff to come out. It just kind of showed up in court documents, and really takes a court reporter to say, oh yeah, that was the former assistant from UNM. Then it becomes a big thing. So it's just, and the Cody Hopkins thing, which I thought the Cody Hopkins thing, the most interesting thing that came out of that is Craig Neal was in the clear. They said that he had no knowledge at all of this guy's behavior. The internal audit actually found that he didn't know about any of this stuff, which it was always my understanding that Craig Neal was maybe the puppet master behind the whole thing, but apparently not. That was one thing Craig did right, is he didn't steal money from the school. So there you go.
We'll take one more break and come back with one more segment here on the Sports Desk.
Hey, New Mexico, come check out the newly remodeled guest rooms at the new Wyndham Albuquerque Hotel and Conference Center, featuring 309 rooms, 30,000 square feet of meeting space. New Mexico's only indoor water park featuring the Wave Runner. 2,200 square foot fitness center with hydro massage chairs. Also enjoy breakfast at our new Manzanita Grill and watch your favorite team play at Altitude Sports Bar and Grill. It's all at Wyndham Albuquerque Hotel and Conference Center.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Carmody Medical provides solutions for your everyday needs. Hot and cold compression wraps provide therapeutic compression for the shoulder, hip, and knee. The therapy wraps are constructed of an insulated outer fabric and a ventilated cotton pocket to protect the body. Elastic belts allow mobility and deliver a gentle, adjustable compression. The reusable therapy packs can be removed from the pouch and placed into the freezer. Contact Jim for more information.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez. Alden Iwani, as always, our fine director. And the whole crew, Jason Pohl and Josh Brown also here. Got to give those guys a shout out as we normally do. Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican, our guest. We're going to break a trend here. We only have a little bit of time, but we're going to roll through the coaches' polls. Talk a little actual high school sports.
Well, before that, I'm glad you got your name right. It's not Ken this time.
No.
That's good. That's good.
Don't shake my guy up. Will, he's going to be thinking about that for 2 years. That's my guy here. Yeah, so don't shake him up, please. Yeah.
Well, this guy and I go back a little ways. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at some of the softball polls here. And you see the 3A. And anything surprise you out of this?
Absolutely. Now, I've seen about 4 softball games this year, so I can tell you they play with a bigger ball than baseball.
That's okay. Well, that probably, on the lower levels, that's probably what all of us have to say right now. Let's look at 4A, and you've got Silver, Bernalillo, Cobre, Santa Fe Indian, and Robertson. And, Bernalillo, as the polls came out, they were 18-4.
Yeah, and some of these records you see right now are kind of bloated because some of these teams, they fall into that incestuous district thing going on.
Right.
And so they get these records with the high win percentage. You think, well, that's the team to beat. Not necessarily true, but I've seen Santa Fe Indian School. They're always tough. Robertson is always good. Robertson's they're one of the fewer power hitting teams that they play the style that most major league teams do right now, which is go deep.
And Cobre's always been a traditional power too.
Silver's just they're a juggernaut, and when you get the reclassification, that'll change. But Silver's last year in 4A, so.
Look at 5A now. So you got Artesia, Valencia, Lovington, Gallup, and Farmington 1 through 5.
Yeah, and I follow Artesia's softball team on Twitter, which is what I like about them. They have a huge footprint on social media, and any team that does that is good enough for me. So the fact that they're a runaway team at number 1, that's good. That works.
You'd follow them, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's go to 6A now, and you got Oñate on top, followed by Volcano Vista, Mayfield, Rio Rancho, and Cibola. And a very good team that I got a chance to see earlier in the year, La Cueva, they're at number 10.
Yeah, which I have seen Volcano Vista. Of course, I have a little bit of a personal connection with that school. But look, Las Cruces School is always good, and Oñate, apparently the team to beat. I know club sports, the club level is big down there, so I'm sure they have a big influence from that.
So now let's switch over to baseball, and on 3A, you got Texaco, Estancia, Eunice, Dexter, and Santa Rosa.
Yeah, Texaco is always really good, and I understand they've got one of the best power hitting players in the state, so I'm looking forward to seeing them. Of course, any small school team, it really comes down to pitching. If you have 3 good pitchers, you're going to win the state championship, and Texaco's always had that with them.
Let's roll through 4A now. Robertson, Hope Christian, Portales, Silver, and New Mexico Military Institute, NIMI, if you will, 1 through 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Robertson. I'll see them on Saturday. They play St. Mike's in a doubleheader to determine that district championship. I know Hope is really good. I would probably put Hope up there just because the Albuquerque influence. They have kids that probably could be playing at La Cueva instead go to Hope. So I'd put Hope number 1.
Then, Ed, you got Goddard in 5A, followed by Farmington, Belen, St. Pius, and Deming, and Goddard always a power.
Oh, yeah. Look at St. Pius at number 4 and Belen and Farmington. So, yes, Goddard has always been right at the top in 5A baseball.
As we roll things down, let's quickly look at 1A and then final 30 seconds with our guest here in La Cueva at number 1 and 6A, followed by Clovis, Centennial, Piedra Vista, and Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Well, it has been fun, Will. We could probably have you on for 3 more hours and still not accomplish anything.
We never even talked about the Pecos basketball coaching thing, man.
Yeah, no, we haven't, but we also want people to read you about it, too, because that's going to be a story that's coming up. So, yeah, it's an unfortunate story, but it's a story that you can look on the website for the Santa Fe New Mexican and find it. Ed, we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. I'll be here.
Thanks to Alden Iwani, our fine director. Until next week, for Ed Nunez and Will Weber, I'm Scott Coletti. See you next time on the Sports Desk.
Proview.